Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're really glad that you decided to join us today, whether you're watching this pre-recorded, I can't say that often enough tonight, it is pre-recorded live show, or if you are listening to us on a podcast, an audio podcast. We're really glad that you're in the audience.
Yes, we are. I want to remind everybody about Thursday nights on WDJYFM.com. It's actually a FM radio station in Atlanta, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 99.1 FM. You can listen on the old-timey FM radio there. I guess it's not so old-timey. It's still there. But you can listen to our episodes there. Also on Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, episode Rewind, where you can watch right where you're watching right now, all of our old episodes. And then on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, always we're live. We'll either have a pre-recorded or a live show.
Right.
So
and
that's our main
even
time.
though this is pre-recorded, go ahead. If you want to make comments on our YouTube, we'll try and get back to you. If it's something you want to ask the author, we'll make sure that he gets the message.
Right. And we'll have his links to reach him here during this show later on. So without much further ado, why don't we bring in our guest for tonight, Mr. Timothy Gager. Hi, Tim.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Rob. Hi, Joan. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're really good. We're here in Tampa and we're hot.
It is hot. I just looked at the temperature gauge out there. It's 98 right now.
No, I've only got it in the 60s in Massachusetts here. We haven't hit our heat wave yet. So,
yeah, we've been heat waving it for the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's like an early summer for us.
I see that you hosted a successful Dyer literary series in Cambridge, Mass. for 18 years, 2001 to 2018. That is actually 17 years. I can add and subtract. I'm actually from Boston. I was raised in Boston. I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, what section of Boston, Joe?
Well, when I was 3, my parents moved to the suburbs. They moved to Holbrook, which is in between Quincy and Brockton. And were you born and raised in Boston or no?
I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. And I went away to college in Delaware. And while I was away at college, my parents moved, but I was able to relocate. I was able to, they moved to Massachusetts, and that's kind of where I spent my summers while in college, and then I ended up settling here.
Where did you broadcast your show from?
So the Dyer series was in Cambridge from the Out of the Blue Gallery, and then we temporarily moved to the Middle East, and then the Arts Armory in Somerville, and before it retired, and now it lives again as a Zoom series that meets every other week.
Every other week at what night of the week can people?
It's called Virtual Thursdays, Dyer Literary Series. So we meet on Thursdays, but sometimes Fridays. So depending on the author, so like if I really, really want to interview and have an author and they're only available on Fridays, I have a very special episode, just like the old TV shows.
Yes, cool. A very special episode.
Very special Friday.
So. Okay. I also see that you've had over 1,000 works of fiction and poetry published. That's a lot.
Yeah, and that number has slowed down a bit. I mean, part of my journey as a writer was to get a lot of work published and get name recognition from that. And, as indie writers know, very often it's a numbers game. And sometimes editors, when they're unsure, they'll just go with the guy that has better credits. It's just it's just the nature of the game. So my numbers went from like being published like one every like 200 submissions to one every 10 or 15. And now I pretty much will publish online or in print upon request. Like I don't do a whole lot of sending out to markets or not.
Well, that's interesting. What made you decide to go that route?
The route of multi-publishing or the route of not submitting currently?
Not submitting currently and not sending out, just doing it on request.
Well, I feel that I've developed some name recognition when I put out a book. The books sell right off the bat. It's a small but very loyal following, which I have. And I'm very, very grateful to the folks that read me and look forward to, my next book. And, it's interesting because early in a writer's career, your first book comes out and all your friends and family will, it's a best-selling book for all your friends and family. They'll all buy it. And then after that, it's kind of like, you've done 3 or 4 books and, in my case, 18 books. It's kind of like, yeah, you again. Okay. So so now it's down to the readers versus people that are doing you a favor by buying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder, I noticed that you also write poetry. Why did you decide to start writing poetry? I mean, was there poetry in you that had to come out, or,
I wrote poetry when my children were born, because I was writing longer works of fiction, like longer short stories. Back in the days when short stories were like over 2,000 words, that was kind of the genre I was writing in. And then I just found that I got too interrupted by my children, not because they were being difficult children. It's just like, being a dad, you got to get up, you got to do things, you got to cook lunch, you got to, drive them places. So I could always start a poem and be able to get back to it much more easily than starting a short story and getting back to it, because, my inner editor, by the time I got back to my story, would automatically cancel the story.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah, I do too. We have 6 children, 6 children-in-law, 14 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. So we certainly understand being interrupted.
That is certainly a lot.
It is a lot.
Have you considered writing haikus then?
That might be the way to go. Yeah, I don't think people appreciate how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into writing a novel that's, 70,000, 80,000 words. Publishers don't want to see more than 80,000 anymore anyway. So
that's correct. Unless you already have a name, and then you can send them pretty much anything that you want. But, it's almost the whole indie publishing along with boutique publishing. They would publish longer work, but the cost of that many pages, that it's really discouraging for people that are putting something out on their own, and even for publishers like a small press publishers. The cost of putting out a lot of pages and the cost of mailings, because the weight is greater, it's really actually makes a huge difference.
Oh, it does. It does indeed.
It.
There is no doubt about it at all.
That's why Amazon's up in their prices for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
doubt about that.
It's a tough market nowadays too, because, we've often said back when we started writing and selling on Amazon, there were 1 million books on Amazon, and now there's like 32 million. So it's a really hard market too, to get it out there. So.
And also with Amazon started out just as a bookstore, and then now it sells everything. Like, if you've got toenail fungus, you can go to Amazon and get the medication. But should I get a book? Or
you can also order from Trader Joe's, right?
Yeah. Should I buy a book or Tofungon? I don't know. But what I find though is I've seen a big comeback from indie bookstores recently. And I just find that wonderful. As indie bookstores have sort of become a place to hang out and get a book and, have a cup of coffee, or, some of them have wine bars and events, and, it's good for them. Like the obituary for indie bookstores were, they were already written like 10 years ago, and now there's a nice revival. And I think, I blame, I credit actually the world opening up again after COVID. People are looking for these places.
Yeah.
To hang out with live people and interact.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not like, that like 2020 seems long gone and long far away, but I think it definitely subconsciously affected people's psyches in terms of making those connections.
Oh, it did.
Terrific impact.
It did. And I think it really hurt children. Yeah. It really hurt children a lot.
And their relationships.
Yes.
And, just their school, like if you were in middle school during 2020, 2021, those children are having a really difficult adjustment time going back to classes. And there's a lot of like stuff that people ignore, or that people would be like, just get over it. Like the anxiety level of kids re-entering society is something that, we shouldn't discredit or disregard. As adults, we can adjust a little more easily, but there's a lot of pressure on kids just to, be in groups and be in society, and, where do they fit in amongst their peers? Where do they fit in amongst adults? Where do they fit in the world? And, they got this 2-year timeout that, just had really bad implications.
Right when they're trying to figure out who the heck they are and what the heck's going on,
I know that, like I said, we have 14 grandchildren, and most of them are adults, or, late teenagers, almost adults. But we have 2 younger ones who are now 12 and 11 and 9. But when COVID struck, their parents would take them out to playgrounds, to play on swings and stuff like that. And they let them play on the monkey bars and whatever that little roundy thing is that you run and jump on and it twirls around. And there were these 2 other little children here. And I remember our daughter told us about this afterwards, and it just broke my heart. This other couple brought their 2 children, and they didn't let them play on anything that other children had been on. So they asked, our grandkids were swinging on the swings, and the little boy asked our grandson, "Is that fun?" And he said, "Yeah, it's a lot of fun." And the little boy was only 4. And he said, "I've never been on a swing."
Wow.
And I was just like, holy moly, that breaks my heart to think that,
And also, we as adults even had the fear of, the beginning of it all, just wiping down our groceries and like jumping into the shower after you were out in the world. And like, that for children must have been terrifying.
To watch that happening. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it did. It kind of changed the world. We're really old, and I can remember in 1976, we went to San Francisco, and you were talking about now bookstores are coming back that have little coffee shops and stuff. Well, back then they were everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we found this really neat little bookstore with a coffee shop, and I can remember we'd go in there every day and sit down and have a cup of coffee and look through the books and see what they had and sit and read, and you'd talk to people. And of course, in San Francisco, you met a lot of interesting people, a lot of artistic people, and it was really fun. So I'm glad to hear you said that that's coming back. I haven't noticed that in the Tampa area.
Well, we're going to one tomorrow.
Yeah,
but I don't think it has a coffee shop. It's next. We're doing a book signing at a small independent bookstore called the Gilded Page.
Yeah, and it's really important too to get out there and do your signings too. People do want to meet you, and people will buy books if they're meeting you. Versus if you're doing a reading, you may not sell that many books because people are looking. For some reason, there was a shift that people will sit down and I want to be entertained and read to at an event and not necessarily feel obligated to buy the book, because of course they're not obligated to buy the book. But when you're doing a meet and greet or a signing, people are there to buy the book, which is much different than being there to be read to.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
And actually, that's why we started this podcast, was because we wanted people to get to know authors as a person.
Right. Get to meet you.
Get to meet you and know what you're like. Which brings me to another question. Yeah, we have.
Well, there should be a part 2 podcast of I don't want to know this guy anymore. Like, you know, like after you've met me for a little bit, like,
well, they can
just pissed you off. I don't want to know you anymore.
put their finger.
They can exit. They don't have to stay watching. They can go, enough of this. We actually had one person comment. We do that little 30-minute countdown before the show starts, which is the station has us do that. And this person commented, well, that's 30 seconds of my life I'll never get back. I won't watch the rest of the show. And I was like, okay.
The whole reason we have that's there is because people are always late.
And the station said
You
we have to
start
do
the
it.
show early, right on time, and people are not going to get the whole show.
They miss
I know that person could have been at paint night for those 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Sheesh.
It made me laugh. It really.
Hold on, let me start a roast. Damn it, I gotta wait 30 seconds.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Well, you know what? People can take umbrage toward anything and make it into this great big. I mean, welcome to America 2024. Make it into this great big thing. When the bottom line is, you know what? Just let other people do their thing and be happy. I'm like, aren't you like? Isn't there some sort of like feeling like when your loved ones are happy or people in your life are happy, like just to be able to extend that to the rest of the world would be really, really like something.
Right.
Well,
you don't even have to label it. You don't have to label like into any title, whether it's race, gender, et cetera, et cetera. How about just happiness? Happiness is a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
I think that on social media, you get a skewed view of who people really are, because so many people feel comfortable to be really nasty on social media.
They can hide.
Yeah, nobody really knows who they are. But a friend of mine from Indiana called me today, and she was saying that they have a little like neighborhood thing where they talk about what's going on in the neighborhood, and whenever somebody has a need and they put it on there, she said the outcome, the people pouring out help for those people, she said, is amazing. It really makes you feel good. And I think maybe if we heard more of stories like that, we'd feel better.
Yeah, and stories about that face to face is really important, because anything like that shows up on the internet, people think, oh, scam. I'm being scammed. People are asking for help or for money. And it's become really, really jaded and twisted.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it's your neighborhood thing, then, more often than not, you know who those people are.
Exactly.
And you want to help them.
Speaking of asking for money, it's time for our first commercial break. So our sponsors are going to ask for money. But anyway, hang on just a minute.
Ask for money.
Support your sponsor.
There you go.
Yes.
Hang on just
they support us.
a couple of minutes and we'll be right back. Don't go away, folks.
Yeah.
It's every parent's worst nightmare. Police officer Madison Jackson awakes to discover her baby kidnapped from her crib. Was it revenge for someone she arrested, or something far more sinister? Madison's estranged husband is incarcerated in Supermax. As the second in command of a deadly Mexican cartel, did he issue the order to abduct their daughter? Bye, Baby, Bye, from author Kelly Marshall. Get your copy today.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than 3-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
And we're back.
We are.
Wow.
Maybe.
I think Gracie ordered the baby being kidnapped because it's a whole cartel connection going on
And they're probably hiding them in the Amazon jungle
with the Jaguar.
with the Jaguar. Exactly.
Naja.
I am like poking a little humor at it, but those are great trailers.
Aren't they? They're all great books too. As a matter of fact, the Naja book was the 4th in the series, and I know he didn't want to write a 4th, but one of our daughters is one of his most avid readers, and she kept bugging him saying, I want to see Naja again. I miss that great big black house cat.
That's when you know that you've done something right, when people miss your characters. I know when I finish a book, I miss my own characters.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And like, I have a regular editor, and I just have finished another novel manuscript, and like, she messaged me saying, I'm done with the editing process. I'm going to miss this book. And it's kind of like, okay, I've done something okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great.
That is good.
Yeah.
Speaking of your books.
Yes. Would you like to talk about Joe the Salamander?
Joe the Salamander. Joe the Salamander got a lot of momentum, and I really enjoyed writing it. I was able to have an ASD, autism spectrum protagonist and present it in a way that was realistic and very empathetic at the same time. And, with the whole talk about cultural assimilation and not being able to write characters that are not yourself. First of all, I made sure that the manuscript got in the hands of a parent or several parents of people that are on the spectrum. And I also sent the manuscript to people on the spectrum. And I said, look, I know there's some humor in this book. There's also some other things within this book that present, maybe a negative characteristic. Let me know if this works. Let me know if I'm in the right direction. Anything that doesn't work, let me know. And, they all said that I represented it very, very well, very respectfully, and in a very, Joe, the main character, is the hero of the story, but he's not an amazing hero. He's not like magical. He doesn't have magical powers, but he has, he is able to meet life on life's turn, exist, overcoming some challenges, and it's. I'm very, very. Personally, I'm very proud of that book.
Do you do your own covers?
I usually draw a little picture and they produce them. This one, the only thing I suggested is puzzle pieces. The whole Superman shadow that's on that book cover. That the book editor, the cover artist, did that, and I find that to be really, really interesting because Joe, the main character, has a little Superman obsession that started when he was a child.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 grandchildren who are autistic, so we're well aware.
And it has nothing to do with I remember as a kid myself, I used to pin towels around my shirt so that I would have my own cape. Superman was a big deal when I was a kid. And, it's, and Joe believes and then disbelieves after various things happen in his life of the power of Superman.
Oh, that sounds great. I like that.
Sounds interesting.
And I like autistic people. They're usually very bright
and sweet.
And sweet.
And it's not easy. There's if you imagine being bombarded by stimuli throughout your life that present in such ways that are interrupting various.
One of our grandsons, his dad and mom and one of his brothers had gone to Colorado, and he's opted to stay home. He's 21, so it's not like he was a kid. This was last year, and a hurricane struck, and we were
in Tennessee.
We were in Tennessee. Yeah, we were doing an investigation in Tennessee, and the news started to him. There's what is happening in some countries on the earth. Called his dad to let him know what was happening. He was on a dining room table. Our grandson was on a dining room table floating, and that's how high the water had gotten, and he didn't know what to do. But he couldn't get on a plane, so that's why he didn't go, because he would rather have stayed home. And they face challenges like that, and then really being unable to gauge, okay, I should probably get some help sooner than when the dining room table is floating, the water is so deep in the house, right?
Yeah. And anyone with attention deficit disorder can understand this. And if you multiply your attention deficit disorder by about 10 to 15 times, that's kind of what it's like to be invaded by stimuli.
Constantly. Yes. So it's not easy, and
but I think there's a lot more understanding on it. I remember 25 years ago reading Temple Grandin's book and just being okay, now I understand why it was always viewed as behaviors, people are having behaviors, when in fact no, they're just trying to find comfort.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more in the light it is, the more understanding there will be too.
Yeah. So I also, when I was writing Joe the Salamander, people that have read it also have been this is going to shed some light toward people that don't really necessarily understand it.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. The more knowledge you can get out there and understanding, the better. Let's go on to this book, The Best of Timothy Gager. It's poems, essays, and stories written between 2002 and 2022.
Yeah, this is, I'm just really humbled by this project. It was an idea of my publisher for years. I've many of my books were published by Big Table Publications, and that's Robin Stratton. And, she did a best of for Doug Holder, a poet here in Massachusetts. And then, she said, why don't you do a best of? And, I had to she picked out some various work within those 20 years. And then I had my say. Like I said, not this one, how about this one? And we went back and forth and developed it. And then I said, you know what? While we were doing this, I have written some new flash fictions and poetry. Can I add to the manuscript as, so it'll be like a totally like new section, totally new book. And so the beginning of Best of has about 150 pages of new material, which is really nice. And it's so hard when you work with a publisher that they actually listen to your suggestions and, 100%. And that's why I love working with Robin, because like I'll listen to Robin's suggestions and she'll listen to mine. And it really feels like a partnership versus, something that's constricting. And so the Best of came out a year ago. That cover was Sheila Smallwood, who, is an award-winning cover designer. And, that's it's just really, really nice to have something like that. Of course, in my mind, like the follow-up would be second best.
The second best of Timothy Gager,
which is because I love in my writing, I love double, especially in poetry. I love double meanings. So like that's just about
well, I like this quote. Timothy Gager is a genius of the quotidian. Now that was from Robert Olin Butler, a Pulitzer Prize winning author. So that's pretty cool.
Nice to get that endorsement, right?
Yes.
I really like the titles of all your books are very clever.
Yeah.
And part of, making contacts is so important, not just for sales. Like, like if I make contacts of like 5,000 new people, some of them will buy the book, just making contacts in the author community and in the writing community. So like, in general, big name authors will just say no to a blurb, not because they don't want a blurb, it's just they don't have time with the number of people. So the contacts that I've made in my life, I'm able to approach people and get really nice and generous blurbs from them.
Yeah. And really we found authors are some of the most generous people and really want to help other people along.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the world of just being a real fan of athletics and professional athletes. You really can't approach them. You can't email them. You can't do anything. And like when I started my series, the Dyer series, I would email these people that are, they're the stars of their sport, the stars of the writing world. And they would email me back and I'd be like, wow, I'm in a whole new world here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You are exactly right. And they want to help you. They want to help you succeed. So he had my favorite author's daughter who has taken over his series. They're both, her father and herself, are New York Times bestseller. And he wrote her and said, would you like to be on our show? And she said, oh, I would love it. Didn't tell me, surprised me. Everybody said, oh, Joan is going to be such a fangirl. I said, yeah, you betcha. But that's really something.
And also, there's if you have an important issue or an important memoir or an important nonfiction book, I'm working on a novel that has to do with the gun issue, and I'm seeking blurbs for it. The book's not going to be out for a little bit, but I've got to tread lightly. The people that I would like to blurb this book have been affected by guns and gun violence. So the approach to that and the ask there is an entirely different ask.
Yeah,
you have to really be sensitive, right?
For real. That sounds like a really important book too. And that's going to be called Shadows of the Scene. And
that's what it's going to be. As of right now, that's the title of it.
That's the working title.
The original title was The Shooter, the first original title. And when I took a look at, as you do this thing, I wonder if there are other books, and there are so many other books called that. So I thought Shadows in the Scene kind of covered what I was reaching for. And, I think that it's, for now, it's a good working title. Who knows? I might run into a publisher that will say, no, we want to call it something else. And then, we'll have that conversation.
Now, I really like the title of this book. If you want to talk about it, it'd be great. It's called Every Day There Is Something About Elephants. And for those of you that are on the audio, that's written in red across a photograph of an elephant. So,
and if you the elephant goes through the spine, and the back of the book is the elephant's tail.
Good.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, that's actually, the title was taken from a piece of flash fiction that I had written, and that book is all flash fiction. It's like 184 stories ranging from 1 page to 5 or 6 pages, and that was a very interesting book to put out. Nearly every story but 5 of them was published. So previously, so I was able to kind of pull together and a lot of the work that was, we talked earlier about over 1,000 works published. I was able to kind of put together something out of that grouping. And, and the funny thing is the title of that is another, Every Day There's Something About that flash fiction piece appeared in Smoke Long Quarterly, I think in 2012. And that is also a gun-themed story.
Is it gun-themed about hunting, or is it about?
No, it has to do with somebody that goes back to their job and with a death wish for everybody. And I paralleled that part of the story with elephants and how elephants think, and who elephants are as animals. And there was a lot of back and forth within those 2 or 3 pages.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then there's Grand Slams, which you said you really loved sports growing up, and there was no way to get in touch with them.
But this is a coming of age.
This is so Grand Slams is based. It's a fictitious book. It's a novel, and it just came out on audiobook. So a lot of my older books are now coming out in audiobook form. So that was released I believe like 10 days ago, and it has some really, really great. Shannon McDermott produced it. She did some of the audio, and she had some of her friends in New York that were actors read some of the other roles within the book. So it's a really fun book to hear. And the book is pretty much my life working at a Denny's in the summer. A Denny's restaurant in Lexington, Massachusetts.
Slam.
So the restaurant's name is Grand Slams because I couldn't use Denny's.
Right.
Well, probably not.
And the Grand Slam breakfast, which I couldn't use either specifically. In the book, I call it the double home run breakfast. And one of the characters is kind of like, that makes no sense. You really can't have a double home run.
What is that anyway, right?
But yeah, there were so many. That book was really fun to write because the characters were all based on the characters. If you ever worked at a restaurant job, you work with some real characters. So they were pretty much true to who they were. And people that have read this book or listened to this book said, you know what, like, I don't, I believe it, but it's really, really out there. I said, yeah, the people I worked with were really, really out there.
Out there.
I've never worked in food service.
No,
but,
I haven't either. I've eaten in restaurants.
Yeah, I've eaten in a lot of restaurants. Yeah, but
they're really hardworking people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
all the people that have ever rated on us.
We know that
really
for sure. Yeah.
Earned their money for sure.
Time to do another.
It is time to take another break. And when we come back, we'll finish up. Got a couple more books to talk about. So.
And let you know how to get in touch.
Right.
Awesome. Great.
Go away,
Timothy.
folks.
An unforgettable mystery thriller that will transport you back to 17th century England. Introducing Dream of Courage, facing fear head on, your passport to 17th century mystery, mayhem, and murder. Follow Robert and John Rushworth through Leeds' bustling Briggate district, where danger lurks in the shadows, embodied by the thief-taker Jacob Wilding. You will laugh, you will cry, and be in awe of the twists and turns. Its meticulous attention to character development, emotional nuance, and the unfolding of the story's layers. promise a compelling and emotionally charged journey. The U.S. National Times said, "Modern writers usually don't know what it was like to live in the past, but Rushworth Brown does this with great skill." Uncover the secrets of Smythe, the enigmatic tavern keeper who sends Robert to the Haven, to the pirate Captain Girlington. Will he outwit danger in the nick of time?
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small coal mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
Indeed.
All right.
I want to make trailers like that. I mean, I already have one queued up in my head. At night, he is a vampire. During the day, a dinosaur. Tune in, fucking dinosaur every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Hey, I want to read that one.
You should write that book and then do the trailer.
Maybe it is one of. Is that one of your books already?
Dinopire.
That's funny.
All right. If you want to get in touch with this person,
you may not want to.
With a mind like that, which I myself admire greatly, you can reach him at timothygager.com, and that's TIMOTHYGAGER. And so you can find all of his social media. Do you have anything else on there besides social media? Do you have a blog or newsletter?
My email address is there that connects on that page. Also, under news in the tab, that will connect you to my blog, but that's also Timothy Gager Blogspot. And, my name, Gager, is fairly uncommon. So if you really just want to find me and look me up, chances are you're going to find me.
Yeah. You don't have a newsletter?
You know what? I was recommended that I have a newsletter, but I just don't want to collect email addresses, and it's fine for other people that do, because you can always opt out if you don't want to be on it, and that's great. But I just kind of do the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the above, YouTube. I don't do TikTok. I don't quite understand it. I mean, if I could dance to sell books, I would, but
I don't know. We don't do TikTok either. We do everything else, but it's like,
I guess Twitch is becoming
Twitch. I think we're going to have to do Twitch. We're going to have to do Twitch. If you want to,
Twitch is pretty big.
And if you want to reach young people, they're all on Twitch. So, yeah. We've got to do that. We just haven't done that yet. We'll get there. Okay. Here's another one. The Shutting Door Poems by Timothy Gager. So how did you pick that title for your poems?
This is I'm in recovery, and the shutting door is a line from my recovery group. We'll no longer, shut the door on our past. So there's a lot of poetry in there that has to do with early recovery, and some of it was written before my recovery. So it's a pretty strong book.
Yeah, I would imagine. That's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how the work has changed, but I guess if you write for a long enough time, your work's going to naturally change. But the last full-length poetry book I had was 20 poems, and every poem was written in 2020, and it came out in 2021. So that's, there's a pandemic theme to it. And then there was, more political poetry in the book Chief J. Strong Bow is Real. And, that had to do with what was going on around the 2016 election. And, you write what, I'm almost done with writing what I know. So I'm writing with what's going on.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, when you get to be our age, you realize you really don't know a whole lot. So
A lot less than you thought you did.
yes,
Sure.
don't write about what we know.
Well, you catch yourself like,
Yeah.
this is going to be the same old poem or the same old. So I've been doing a lot of poems coming from prompts. So it'll kind of take me away from, my standard comfort poem.
Well, I don't think I could write a poem. I mean, I had to write a poem in school, but they weren't any good.
But poetry is such a great tool for your toolbox for your other works of fiction or nonfiction, just to be able to get in that mindset of saying things in a different way, a unique way, a creative way. Really kind of helps out when you're developing like metaphors through like longer pieces of work or even
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important for me. It became it definitely amped up my other poetry, amped up my other writing.
That's interesting. Another thing I've never tackled, and I love reading it, is science fiction. I love it. I mean, I've been reading science fiction for many, many years, and I really love it, but it overwhelms me, the idea of creating a world that I have to create that would be believable.
Well, I mean, especially, you work within the paranormal. Like it's not a bad job.
That's real though.
But
real to other people. But
you can spin, right? You can spin off it. Do you one of my favorite shows is Resident Alien, which is
oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be one of the funniest shows ever. We love it.
It's very well done.
It is, and he's a great actor. I love him. He's great. And
which one, the alien or the guy?
The alien is
the sheriff. Sheriff's pretty good, but like, the alien, he is. It kind of reminds you of almost like a cross, like old Alan Sue's, Paul Lynde, like just the old school ability to deliver a line.
He's great. He's really great. And then, oh my gosh, what's his name? Sorry, senior citizen moment. The guy who was on Castle, what's that actor? And he was on so many shows that I liked. Can't remember his name. Anyway, he was the voice of the octopus.
Oh, wow.
Who was then the another alien that this alien knew, but he was an octopus, which, a lot of people say that octopuses are aliens. They are not from this planet, that they are aliens. That's a going theory. So just full of clever little things like that in that show. Yeah, it's good. It's well written, I think. And
it's great to find a well-written show.
And it's well played too. It's like, okay, we're good. And further Fenway fiction. Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion was the voice of the octopus. And that when I heard his voice, I was like, oh my gosh, hilarious that they got him to do that. Further Fenway fiction. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
This one isn't my book, but it is. I appear in it. It is Adam Patcher was the editor, and he put together a bunch of people that wrote fictitious stories about the Red Sox in Fenway Park. So I contributed to it.
Well, you live near Fenway.
I do. I haven't been as much as I used to. I find the experience to be much less overwhelming than it was. I find it very underwhelming what they've done to the ballpark, what they've done to the team. It's very physically uncomfortable to sit in that ballpark now.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah, the seats are about as close together as Spirit Airlines. Like your knee.
Oh my gosh!
So sitting, and like I wasn't even in the cheap seats, just sitting there. I mean, I'm tall. I'm 6'2", so it was not a really comfortable experience.
Right. Even though Rob's a retired air traffic controller, we never fly anywhere because of that. Well, amongst other things. I
know too many stories.
We know too much, but also don't like those uncomfortable seats at all, and your knees being in your chin, and then the person in front of you deciding to lay back. And
just like anything else in society, try to milk as much money as you can and not really think about humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's so true.
Very true.
I have to ask you a question before we have to end the show, because I know our audience and I know they want to know this. And I hope you know these terms because we didn't talk to you about it beforehand. Do you know what the difference is between a pantser and a plotter in writing? Ever heard those terms?
Pantser and plotter?
Yeah.
One lays out everything by form and by script and plots it all out and fills it in. And a pantser just kind of
flies by the seat
from the head. Yep.
Would you be a pantser or a plotter, or like a hybrid of the two?
I'd say a hybrid. If I'm working on a novel, I generally think of theme. I'm generally starting as a pantser, but when I'm about a quarter or halfway through the first rough draft, I'd better know how it's going to end so I can head in that direction. So I will plot toward that. I'll also kind of plot based on sections and points of view in advance. Like for Shadows in the Seam, I was like, 3 main characters. Do I want separate sections? Do I want to go back and forth? But in terms of the plot and the arc and the narrative, very often it's going to present itself. And then after the fact, after I think I'm done or I'm in the middle of it, I need to beef up a certain area or something strikes me and I need to go back and fill in that. Yeah, I will do that. So I would say the beginning of the project, I'm 80% pantser, and by the end of it, I'm 100% plotted.
It's funny, the last book that we wrote, we usually know where we want to start and where we want to end. You know, what we kind of know where we're going. But then that changes when we write, you know, all the time, because the characters seem to have a mind of their own and
exactly
go this way. And the last book that we wrote, I had just finished writing a part, and he was busy writing another part. We were sitting at separate tables, and I said to him, listen to this and tell me what you think about this. And he said, I think you just wrote the end of the story. And we had wanted to write another like 15,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, you know what? I think that is the end of the story. And so that is how we ended the story. And then we did an epilogue to tie up all the loose ends that we planned on writing about.
Yeah, I mean,
the impact was there, you know, that's like boom, done.
And you have to allow that. You have to allow the book to kind of have a mind of its own, because then you're going to stifle something. In Shadows in the Seam, one of my characters died, and I didn't plan on having them die, but they died. And then I planned on it being a random act, but then it turned out to be in the hands of another one of the characters because it just makes more sense that way. And that was totally unplanned.
Yeah. It's really interesting to me how real our characters can be to us, the writer, right? That's definitely. You know them and they're real, and you know the way they think. It's really it's an intimate thing.
Yeah, and you end up, when the book ends, you end up missing them when you're done writing it. And then, my thought process is always like, God, I'm going to miss these guys. Oh, I can write a sequel. Then no, I'm not going to write a sequel. But that's sort of the way my mind goes.
Well, it looks like we're out of time.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us.
This has really been fun.
Your books look fascinating.
Yeah.
And
go to his website, check it
all
out.
To check them out for sure.
Buy some of his books. Leave a review, please, por favor.
Please review. I'm going to move you over to the side if I can figure out how to push you over there. There you go. Oh, sorry. Forgot. Sorry. Anyway, I want to remind everybody, Thursday nights, WDJYFM.com. Go there to listen to our show, Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Or you can tune it up on the radio dial, 99.1 FM Atlanta. Saturday nights at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here where you're watching right now. You can watch episode rewinds. And next Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, Meet the Author podcast is the main.
And I meant to keep repeating this during the show, but the conversation was so interesting to me that I forgot. This is a pre-recorded show. So if you've been commenting, I did only mention it once. If
the banner along the bottom, maybe
commenting, they don't read that.
Oh, that's
they
true.
Seldom read that. If you've been commenting and Timothy hasn't responded or we haven't responded, it's because this is a pre-recorded show.
And come back next week because we really do care.
Yes.
Go up at my house.
But you can definitely leave comments on the YouTube and we'll make sure that Timothy gets them.
You betcha. Okay, so I guess until next time.
That's all, folks.
See ya.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.